TV 12 News is proud to present the runoff debate for the GOP gubernatorial candidates, Tate Reeves and Bill Waller Jr. Welcome to tonight's event. We are live from the WJTV 12 studio in Jackson, Mississippi. Good evening and welcome everyone. I'm Byron Brown, evening anchor for WJTV 12 News in Jackson. We are broadcasting live from all across the state of Mississippi, and we want to welcome our viewers in Jackson, Hattiesburg, Tupelo, Gulfport, Meridian, Mobile, Alabama, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Memphis, Tennessee. You can follow along with tonight's debate on social media by using the hashtag that is on your screen right now. It is MSGOPGOV debate. You can see all the background of the questions that we will be using tonight by following that hashtag. We want to welcome back Lieutenant Governor Tate Reeves and the former Chief Justice of the Mississippi Supreme Court, Bill Waller Jr. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Here are the rules for tonight's debate. You will have 90 seconds to answer main questions and 30 seconds for follow-up questions or rebuttal. There will be no opening statements. You will also have 30 seconds for closing statements at the end of the debate. And the order of tonight's debate was determined by a random card draw. Well, gentlemen, the last time you were here, I want to thank you again for being here, but the last time you were here, we had a lively debate about the issues, and we know that there are some differences between the two of you. So we really want to take some time tonight to talk about those differences, and one of the big differences that we had was on Medicaid and Medicaid expansion. Mr. Reeves, you have said you are opposed to any kind of expansion, no matter what you call it. Mr. Waller calls it Medicaid reform, and it would be similar to what Vice President Mike Pence enacted while he was governor of Indiana. Mr. Reeves, why is no expansion better for Mississippi? You have 90 seconds.
Well, thank you, Byron, for hosting this debate, you and WJTV, and really all of your affiliates around the state of Mississippi. And thanks to Judge Waller for joining us here today. This is going to be a great opportunity for conservatives across Mississippi to determine who they want leading our party going into the November general election, which by all accounts is going to be obviously a challenging one. I'm opposed to Obamacare expansion. I'm actually the only candidate running for governor this year in either party that is opposed to more Obamacare in Mississippi. I do not believe that putting 300,000 more Mississippians on government health care is a good solution. In fact, I think if you look at what's happened in Louisiana, they elected a Democrat governor in 2015. They soon expanded Obamacare in Louisiana. And there was a study that came out just recently that said in the state of Louisiana, somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 Louisiana residents are being moved every single month. That's between 40 and 60,000 Louisiana residents are being moved from private insurance onto government health care. That's a bad solution for Mississippi. It was a bad solution for Louisiana, and quite frankly, it's a bad solution for lots of states around the country.
Mr. Waller, why is Medicaid expansion better for Mississippi? You have 90 seconds.
We have to do it. We have 31 hospitals in danger of closing. When the Obamacare was passed, they actually cut out a rural hospital subsidy under the assumption states would follow that. So I'm a conservative. I think everyone in the viewing area knows that Mike Pence is a conservative. In fact, Donald Trump hired his Medicaid director so that we can have conservative solutions. So Mississippi is neck deep in Medicaid. We have one of the largest participations in the country. To say that this is something new or novel is just disingenuous. We've adopted the CHIPS program. Several aspects of it we've already adopted. What I want to do is put conservative principles in there. We need to incentivize people to work, and that's what this does. The 300,000 people there, it's not Louisiana. This is Indiana and Arkansas. The Brookings Institute's already studied it. It's good for the citizens. It lowers the cost of health care. It would be $1 billion a year to our 115 hospitals, over 60,000 employees at no taxpayer expense. No taxpayer expense. The track record is there. The need is there. We cannot be closing hospitals.
Mr. Reeves, over 300,000 Mississippians without the insurance. What do you do with those 300,000 that are uninsured? 30 seconds.
Adding 300,000 people to the rolls is the wrong solution. Judge Waller talked about the Indiana plan. The Indiana plan, just so everyone knows, was actually approved by the Obama administration. There was another state called the state of Utah who just in the last couple of weeks went to the Trump administration, and the Trump administration would not approve their waivers for a similar plan. And so I think it's bad public policy for the state of Mississippi.
Mr. Waller, so what do you think about that? Will it be bad public policy for the state of Mississippi? 30 seconds.
That's absolutely wrong. We're following the Arkansas plan. The metrics are there. The history is there. And what we have is these are people within 138% of the poverty line. These are people working every day. They can't afford insurance. There's no way in the world you can afford it. These are part-time people, no benefits. What we want to do is see primary care physicians. We want them to get in the workforce. Our workforce participation rate is 55%. It's the second worst in the nation. I want people to work, and this would incentivize it to do it.
We'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Wall. Another big issue is our infrastructure, and that's another issue that many Mississippians are concerned about. Our roads are notorious. A report from the American Society of Civil Engineers finds that Mississippi drivers pay on average of $820 a year in costs from driving on roads in need of repair. Mr. Waller, you support a gas tax, or what you're calling a user's fee, and Mr. Reeves, you plan to use money from the state lottery. Mr. Waller, we'll start with you. Tell me about your plan and how you think it was going to work for Mississippi. You have 90 seconds.
Byron, we want to cut taxes. I'm conservative, and what I want is to eliminate the 4% income tax bracket. So our people that are paying income tax don't need to shoulder the whole road. We need to have something that everyone pays for. The unemployed, the drug dealers, the out-of-state motorists, and that's the Ronald Reagan plan. Nobody's ever called Ronald Reagan a liberal. It doesn't add a penny to the national debt. It doesn't add a penny to someone's income tax. It's the fair way to do it. We need to move to level tax. In fact, the Tax Institute has already looked at this plan. It was originally proposed by Representative Charles Busby, and they said that Mississippi's tax status would drop from 24th to 19th with this alone because it's a flat tax. It would be less taxes to the families out there. It would be better because everyone that uses the road would be paying it. Every state around Mississippi has undergone this. This is the path to go. You have to have a regular formula. You got to have predictable. The lottery is not that. It hasn't started yet. It goes away in 9 years. The cap is $80 million a year. I don't think we'll ever see $80 million a year, but you cannot build roads on fluctuating revenue at all. So the lottery is not the answer. Even if it reached the full potential of $80 million, our bridge needs alone are over $1 billion. We'll never even repair the bridges, and that's over 10 years. We've got 400 bridges that need to be replaced, 5,000 miles of road.
Thank you, Mr. Waller. Mr. Reeves, tell me about your plan and how you think it's going to work for Mississippi. 90 seconds.
Well, I appreciate Judge Waller and his service to our state. And he talks a lot about the Busby plan. The Busby plan, as I appreciate it, is adding 3 cents a gallon over 4 years to the gas tax. That's a 12-cent per gallon increase in taxes. That's a $240 million increase on hard-working Mississippi families. I'm opposed to raising the gas tax, and yet again, here's another issue where I am the only candidate running for governor that is opposed to raising the gas tax. Both Judge Waller and Attorney General Jim Hood are for raising the gas tax. Judge Waller talks about eliminating the 4% individual income tax bracket. If we could just do that, I would support it. In fact, I have supported it. In the Mississippi Senate, we actually had the opportunity to eliminate the 4% individual income tax bracket. We had 37 senators vote to do that without raising anybody's taxes. And we have cut taxes over 50 times over the last 8 years. We don't have to raise taxes on those who are what Judge Waller calls users. And by the way, by user fee, he defines user as anybody who drives a car in our state. We don't have to raise taxes on users to cut taxes on individual income taxes, and I actually support eliminating the 4% individual income tax bracket without raising the gas tax.
Mr. Waller, are you at all concerned that your proposal there would be an undue burden on poor Mississippians?
Absolutely
30
not.
seconds. Absolutely
not. If that, and of course this is subject to the legislature, but if that's what was passed, it's $6.67 a month. It's $80 a year to the driver at 20,000 miles. So that's absolutely wrong. The relief that we would get, the taxpayers would get from the income tax swap would more than offset that. People would actually be better off tax-wise.
The 12-cent plan raises gas taxes $240 million. The 4% individual income tax bracket elimination reduces total receipts. Now, these are different groups of people, obviously, but it reduces total receipts by $160 million. So it's a net $80 million tax increase on Mississippians. And Byron, this is really important because you asked, would this hurt Mississippi families? I was in Mize, Mississippi just not too long ago on the campaign trail. I had a lady come up to me who told me, she looked at me and she said, Tate, I'm going to vote for you because I know you're going to oppose the gas tax. You see, I live in Mize, and I drive to Jackson every day.
Well,
My husband drives to Hattiesburg
Thank you, Mr.
every
Reeves. We'll
single
continue
day.
that one
And
later.
it's going to cost us an
I
immense
appreciate
amount
that.
of money.
All right, here's the...
Thank you,
And
Byron.
they would have to drive 125,000
I
miles a
got
year
you.
to reach that.
Let me ask you this question. Mr. Waller, 15 seconds. Would you support toll roads in Mississippi?
We have to look at it with the legislature. I certainly think that we need to look at what we have first before we go to anything else. But I think we need everything needs to be on the table for how we can save taxpayers money.
And Mr. Reeves, would you support toll roads in Mississippi?
I'm very open to innovative solutions to fix our road and bridge challenges in our state. The challenge with toll roads, and we've looked at it a number of times, the challenge with toll roads is there aren't enough people in Mississippi to actually finance them at 100% level. And so you've got to do a public-private partnership to make it to make sense.
All right, thank you very much. Our next question. It appears that you have different viewpoints when it comes to the current state of Mississippi's economy. Mr. Reeves, you have said, quote, our economy is growing faster today than at any time in our state's history. According to the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, Mississippi's GDP grew 1% in 2018. And Mr. Waller, you've said Mississippi deserves better. Mr. Reeves, how can you make Mississippi's economy better? You have 90 seconds.
Well, I will tell you, it is very important that we have a governor that is focused on job creation and bringing better and higher paying jobs to our state. I will tell you that raising taxes is not a good solution to growing our state's economy. In fact, if you look at what's happened in our state over the last 8 years, what you see is that Mississippi today has the lowest unemployment rate than at any time in our state's history. Mississippi has more people working today than at any time in our state's history. In addition to that, Mississippi has over 88,000 more people working today than were working 8 years ago when Governor Bryant and I were elected governor, Lieutenant Governor, and Speaker Gunn was actually sworn in as the first Republican Speaker of the House. And so we are making tremendous progress in terms of our economic activity. We've got more work to do. It's the reason that I've proposed a $100 million investment in workforce training. If we're going to see continued economic growth in Mississippi, it is critical that we train and retrain our workforce, not for the jobs of the last 50 years, but for the jobs of the next 50 years. We've got to invest. We've got a community college system that is ranked #1 of anywhere in the entire United States of America. They're uniquely positioned to deliver to the people of Mississippi those job training skills that are necessary. And I would go so far as to say, Byron, the next governor of Mississippi should spend more of his or her time working on workforce training than anything else, because that's what's going to attract the jobs of tomorrow.
Mr. Waller, can you point out the differences in your economic plan in 90 seconds?
Absolutely. My economic plan, well, first of all, let me point that Mississippi's growth since the recession of 2008 is one of the lowest in the nation. We have not enjoyed the same economic growth that the United States is 22.5%, Tennessee's 20%, Alabama's 10.5%, Mississippi's was 2 or less. And the correct figures are there are 50,000 fewer people working today than there were in 2010, and that's according to President Trump's Bureau of Labor Statistics. We've got 31 hospitals that are about to close or been threatened to close. We've got population drain. We lost 35,000 people between 2010 and 2016. We've lost population 3 out of the last 4 years. So we've got work to do on our economy. And my plan is the education, health care, roads and bridges. We would see an immediate turnaround in the economy. $1 billion a year in health care alone would make a huge stimulus in this economy.
Byron,
real quick,
we
30
passed
seconds.
the largest tax cut in Mississippi history just 3 years ago. When we did so, the Democrats and their liberal friends and the ones who want to tax and spend said that we were going to bankrupt our state if we let you keep more of your money. I fought to let the taxpayers keep more of their money, and the reason I did that is because that is good economics. The reality is Mississippi's total revenue, the Democrats would say in spite of, I would say because of the largest tax cut in Mississippi history. Mississippi's revenue actually grew 5.5% year over year in the fiscal year that ended June 30th. That is the sign of a growing economy.
Thank you, Mr. Waller. So his saying that Democrats are taxing and spending sounds like he's comparing you to a Democrat. Is that a fair assessment?
Well,
30 seconds.
I think he's talking about the Democrats. I don't think he would accuse me of being a Democrat, but the truth is on the increase in taxes has nothing to do with the economy. Part of it was an increase in sales tax from user fees on internet sales, which we should have had 3 years ago, which was blocked 2 years because in the Senate. The other part of it is increased withholdings required by the Trump income tax. So So there's not really any significant tax revenue. A, B, that doesn't even reflect whether the economy's healthy or not.
Thank you, Mr. Waller. Our station has received multiple complaints from the drivers about the long wait times at the DMV. Last month alone, driver's license stations were closed 48 times across the state because they didn't have enough people to run the office. We wondered why, and we reached out to the State Department of Public Safety last Friday. They forwarded our message to the Driver Services Bureau, and we are still waiting for a response. Mr. Waller, how will you address the problem? You have 90 seconds.
Well, we've got to fix it. The issue is good governance. The state of Mississippi spent $52 million on that new computer system. We've got a statewide electronic filing system, was going to be mandatory for the state, but is killed in the Senate. That didn't cost anything. We got the source code from the federal government, so you got to be smart in governance. If I'm elected, there'll be no more than a 30-minute wait in the driver's station if we have to make some changes on that, but that is unacceptable to the public.
Mr. Reeves, how will you deal with the driver's DMV problems?
I agree with Judge Waller on this point. It is unacceptable what's happening at the Department of Public Safety and with our Division of Motor Vehicles. I think there's a number of things that need to be done. Number one, I do have a track record running a state agency. In fact, when I was elected state treasurer, I ran the agency for 8 years. I reduced the overall budget by 20%. We were more efficient. We had 20% fewer people, and we actually had more work done every single day. I will continue to do that if I'm fortunate enough to elect a governor. We did purchase a new system that is not working as well as it should, and quite frankly, the fact of the matter is you ought to be able to go online and you ought to be able to define an appointment so that you don't have to go stand in line. They don't even allow simple things such as that. So I believe we can fix that, and it should be one of the first priorities of the next governor to do so.
A large portion of Mississippians don't have access to internet access, and so they can't renew licenses online. So, Mr. Waller, what will you do to shorten the wait times for those who don't have access to the internet?
We're going to shorten the wait time at the stations. If we've got to sort the computer analysis, I want to work on internet access in the rural areas. We've got an initiative that was passed last year that allows the power companies to do that. We need to look at the trunks and access. Rural areas need good internet service, and I think that's a great suggestion. We do need to have internet access for driver's license, for other important things, so all our citizens in the state have got the same access.
Thank you, Mr. Also, Mr. Reeves, what will you do for those who don't have access to the internet to shorten their wait times?
That's a great question, Byron, and the reason it's a great question is because some 200 years ago, Americans and Mississippians located themselves around rivers. Some 100 years ago, Mississippians and Americans located themselves around where the train went through. In today's world and going forward, more and more Mississippians and more Americans are going to locate near connectivity. We worked with our friends in the House of Representatives this year to pass legislation. This was a bipartisan effort to allow our rural electric power associations to offer internet services to the rural area. You've seen 3 different EPAs actually pass that in the last couple of days, and that's going to make a big difference.
All right. Now, a big issue and the big debate that you guys have been having through this race is about being a conservative and a true conservative. So, Mr. Reeves, we're going to begin with you. What does it mean to be a true conservative? You have 90 seconds.
I believe that if you are a true conservative, you do not support Obamacare expansion in Mississippi. I believe if you're a true conservative, you're not for raising taxes in Mississippi. Conservatives believe in less government, less regulation, lower taxes, more individual freedoms for Mississippians. That's what a true conservative is.
Mr. Waller, what does it mean to be a true conservative? 90 seconds.
In my situation, my plan is a true conservative plan. Education, health care, infrastructure are the pillars of any kind of economic development. I think conservatives should be interested in economic development. Our teacher, we have over 1,000 vacancies that were unfilled last year, and what I can tell right now is in DeSoto County, we're going to have that many or more this year. I think a true conservative wants to make sure we've got trained, competent teachers in the classroom. I think health care, a true conservative is not going to let 31 hospitals close. I think they're going to take action, they're going to roll the sleeves up, and I think Mike Pence is a true conservative, and I challenge anyone to say otherwise. Donald Trump is a true conservative, and he has incorporated Mike Pence and his plans in his administration. Building roads is conservative. Ronald Reagan is one of the greatest conservatives there ever was. He proposed the exact solution that we have that we want to follow. Donald Trump wants to have a big infrastructure program, and we need to be ready. We need to have our tax structure in place so we can benefit from the great leads he's going to have. So my plan is conservative, and being conservative isn't sticking your head in the sand. Being conservative is meeting the problems and coming up with solutions.
Byron, if I might.
Go 30 seconds.
Because Judge Waller mentioned that several names, a lot of name dropping going on, and mentioned President Trump. Just so everyone out there is clear, in President Trump's most recent budget proposal, he specifically said that states should stop expanding Medicaid, and he also said that provider taxes, which is the way in which Judge Waller has proposed to fund this $220 million a year that's going to cost to expand Obamacare in Mississippi, he said provider taxes were a financing scheme and nothing more.
Quick question. Do you believe that President Trump is a true conservative based on your definition? 15 seconds.
I believe President Trump has done a fantastic job as the leader of this country. He is focused on tax cuts, just like we have focused on tax cuts in Mississippi. I think he's doing an excellent job. I think he's a conservative, and I think he's a great leader for our economy. And he's also appointed very conservative judges to the bench, which is going to make a difference for generations to come.
All right. Our next question. Well, you believe he's a true conservative. You said that about him and Mike Pence. So you say
Absolutely.
President Trump is a true conservative.
Absolutely.
Right.
And he was accused of being a Democrat when he ran for election because he had contributed to Democrats before. But he is a true conservative. He's done more changes for this country to put us in the right direction than anyone I can remember.
During our last debate, you both said that you wanted to raise teacher pay, but you disagreed on how to raise the teacher pay. Mr. Waller, you said you wanted to raise teacher pay to $40,000 within the first year. Mr. Reeves, you didn't give us a dollar amount, but you gave us more of a graduated timeline on raising teacher pay. Mr. Waller, why is your idea for teacher pay better? You have 90 seconds.
My idea, what I've been consistent in saying, is that we need to raise teacher pay as fast as we can every year, and I intend to do that until we reach the Southeastern average. My plan is to get the experts together at the end of the year and figure out what we can prudently and provide for the teachers. And I'm going to ask the legislature to appropriate that in February before all the other needs are there. And I want to have as much as we can appropriate for our teachers because we've got a crisis. We've got over 1,000 vacancies. This crisis has not been addressed before. We've got to do it now because it is critical to our economic development. It's critical that we support our teachers and that all students have got equal opportunities.
Mr. Reeves, why is your idea for teacher pay better? 90 seconds.
Well, I will tell you that what Judge Waller just said is right. I believe that we need to raise teacher pay as fast as we can to get to the Southeastern average. What I was under the impression that Judge Waller said at the last debate is that we needed to do it immediately. That was a $280 million expense, and I believe he mentioned that we ought to do it by taking money out of the rainy day fund, which would be one-time monies, which I don't think is a good idea to fund recurring expenses with one-time monies. But I do agree with what he just said, which is we need to raise teacher pay as fast as we can. The fact is, a teacher that is teaching in a classroom today is going to make $8,000 more than he or she made the year that I ran for lieutenant governor. We've had teacher pay raises in 3 of the last 6 years, in addition to the $500 step pay increase that every teacher gets every single year. But he's right. We need to continue to focus on our teachers because, Byron, the reality is when you look at outcomes for Mississippi students right now, we're seeing some remarkable work in the classroom. And that's something that we ought to celebrate. And the reason we're seeing remarkable work in the classroom is not because of anybody in Jackson. It's because of our administrators and our teachers. It's because of our parents. And most importantly, Byron, it's because of Mississippi kids. All we've done is raise the level of expectations. And Mississippians have done what Mississippians do, and they have risen up and they've met those increased expectations. I'm proud of what's going on in the classroom right now, and I commend our teachers. Judge Waller's right. We need to raise teacher pay as fast as we can.
Governor Phil Bryant has led our state for the past 8 years, and this is his last year as a governor. Mr. Waller, Mr. Reeves, what is the one thing that you disagree with Governor Bryant on? You have 90 seconds.
Well, the governor and I have disagreed on a number of topics over the last 8 years, and that's the way it's supposed to work. We were elected to 2 different positions. But I will tell you this, the governor and I have agreed on about 95 or 96 or 97 or 98% of the total topics out there. Governor Bryant ran on being a pro-life Republican. Mississippi now, working with Governor Bryant, is the safest place in America for an unborn child. Governor Bryant and I worked together to pass the Religious Freedom Restoration Act because we believe that no governmental entity ought to be able to restrict our people's ability to practice their religion. Governor Bryan and I actually passed legislation to continue to improve our Second Amendment rights in Mississippi and protect our Second Amendment rights. And that's something that we'll continue to do if I'm fortunate enough to get elected governor.
And so, so what's the one thing that you disagreed with him on?
Well, we disagreed on a couple of budget items here and there, and he wanted to increase budgets here or decrease budgets there. But I will tell you, Governor Bryan has done a fantastic job leading our state. I'm honored to have his support in this campaign, and he and I have worked very closely together to continue to improve Mississippi for Mississippi families.
Mr. Waller, what is the one thing you disagree with the governor on?
I think there's some administrative things. I think the driver's license, I don't think we had proper due diligence with that $52 million that was spent on that. We've got in the judiciary, and I have met with a lot of first responders, we don't have the crime lab funded adequately. Every sheriff I talk to is waiting 1.5 years or 2 years for an autopsy. That's unacceptable. Families are waiting on that. We can't go to trial. I talked to a sheriff yesterday, he's waiting 1 year for a drug analysis. That's ridiculous. If you don't, it's a broken window. You've got to, when there's a crime, you've got to get to trial, and you've got to do the time. So I think certainly in that respect that we need to. I think we've got a time bomb with our prison system. I think that there's some simple management techniques to alleviate the lockdowns and some of the chronic issues there. I think certainly needs some attention.
Well, thank you, Candace. So that's going to wrap up our debate questions for tonight. So we're now going to turn our attention to the closing statements, and you will each have 30 seconds. And Mr. Reeves, we're going to begin with you. 30 seconds.
Thank you, Byron, and thank you for hosting this debate today. My opponent, Bill Waller, is a good man. I respect him. I just don't agree with his policy proposals. I think Obamacare was a mistake. Judge Waller would expand Obamacare in our state and add 300,000 more Mississippians to the government rolls. I think taxes are too high. Judge Waller would raise the gas tax, costing Mississippi families $500 a year. If you want higher taxes and more Obamacare, Judge Waller may be your candidate. But if you want a real conservative leading the party into the November general elections, I'm your man.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Mr. Waller, 30 seconds.
The election we just had, over 50% of Mississippians agree with my plan. That is, we need help with health care, education, roads, and bridges. I'm not satisfied with it. The people aren't satisfied with it. There's conservative solutions that won't raise taxes. And by the way, the increase is $6.67 a month, not $500. So my pledge to the people is that with my experience, 29 years in the military, 10 years head of a branch of service, which is unique, I'm the candidate to win in November, and I'm the best conservative to lead this state.
Thank you, Mr. Waller. Thank you, and thank you, Candace, for joining us tonight, and thank you for participating and answering our questions. And we look forward to seeing you on the campaign trail over the next couple of days. And that will do it for our debate tonight here at the WJTV 12 studio in Jackson. And thank you all at home for watching and for following us along on social media. Remember, our hashtag is MSGOPGOV debate. The runoff election is on August 27th, and you can get more information about the election process. It's on our website, which is WJTV.com. And don't forget to head out to the polls on Election Day. Once again, we thank you for joining us tonight for this debate. Stick around for our post-debate show after the break. And you can watch that also on our website, which is WJTV.com.